Have you ever stopped to think about what really makes a school work? I mean, beyond the lesson plans and the test scores, there are these invisible forces, these powerful currents that are constantly shaping how students learn, how teachers teach, and really whether a school feels like a place of growth or just a place of stress. Well, today we're going to make those invisible forces visible.
I love this little story. It's a parable, and it gets at a really deep truth, right? The most obvious, important realities are often the ones that are the hardest to see, let alone talk about. I mean, those young fish have been surrounded by water their entire lives. It's just everything. They don't even have a word for it.
And that's the whole point of what we're talking about today. In any school, that water, it's the emotional environment. It's constant, it's all around us, and it's so often invisible. But it affects absolutely everything. Every single interaction, every lesson, every success, every failure, whether we choose to notice it or not.
All right, so let's dive in. If we're going to learn how to work with this water, instead of just being tossed around by it, we first need to give it a proper name and really understand what it's all about.
So there's a name for this approach, psycho-pedagogy. Now this isn't about adding some new agey emotional wellness program on top of an already packed schedule. Not at all. It's really a fundamental shift in how we see things. It's the understanding that you simply cannot separate thinking from feeling. They're two sides of the same coin, totally woven together in the process of learning.
Okay, so if emotions are the water, and they're affecting every single student, every single day, where does the school even begin? How do you start to work with these powerful, invisible currents? You know, the answer might actually surprise you.
Just think about it for a second. Your first instinct, my first instinct, is probably to say, well, start with the students, of course, right? Develop programs for them, teach them about their feelings. But psycho-pedagogy points us in a completely different and maybe more powerful direction.
And there it is. This is the big aha moment. You can't possibly create an emotionally supportive environment for students if the teachers themselves don't feel supported. It just doesn't work. They are the conduits. They're the role models. They're the ones who set the emotional temperature of the classroom every single day. This quote from a school principal named Annette just nails it. She says her job isn't just managing a building, it's cultivating her class of teachers. Because think about it. An educator who feels unseen, insecure, or unsupported just doesn't have the emotional bandwidth to provide security and visibility for their students. You know the old saying, you can't pour from an empty cup? This is exactly that.
So, how do you actually do this? How does a school go from theory to practice and start treating its teachers like a homeroom class? Well, the psychopedagogical approach is built on a framework of 4 really clear, actionable principles. Let's break them down.
So here's the roadmap, the 4 pillars that hold this whole thing up. First, we have simultaneity. Next, we need to create a professional emotional language. Third is all about recognition and visibility. And finally, you have to put in place personal and systemic support. Together, these things build a school's culture from the inside out.
Okay, first up, simultaneity. The big idea here is that you don't stop a math lesson to have a separate feelings talk. Instead, you acknowledge the feelings that come with the math lesson. So when a student says, "This is too hard," you don't just say, "Try again." You might say, "I can see this is frustrating. Let's figure out where that frustration is coming from." You see? The emotion is treated as part of the learning task itself.
Next is professional emotional language. This one is huge. It's all about making it normal and, safe to talk about feelings. When a school intentionally develops a shared vocabulary, using words like frustration, anxiety, curiosity, pride, it gives everyone permission to use them. It takes emotions from being this private, kind of scary thing and makes them a normal part of the professional landscape.
This third principle, recognition and visibility, taps into something that is just fundamental to being human. Every single person, students and teachers alike, has this deep need to be seen for who they are. Not just as a test score or a job title, but as a whole person, with their own unique strengths, their own challenges, and their own story. It's about validating their experience.
And finally, personal and systemic support. You can think of this as the safety net. Real learning requires taking risks. It requires being vulnerable. So this principle is about building a culture where it's okay to try something and fail, because failure isn't a final judgment. It's just a step toward growth. It's knowing the system, the school itself, has your back.
So, theory is great, right? But what does this actually look like on, say, a random Tuesday morning? Let's take a look at how this plays out in the real world, by following the people who are living this philosophy every single day.
We're back with Principal Annette. And this quote right here, this is basically her mission statement. She sees her main job not as an administrator in an office, but as an educator whose classroom is the entire staff. Her focus is on them.
And her actions totally reflect this. She's not hiding in her office. She is at the gate every morning saying hello. But more importantly, she's seeing her teachers. That quick good morning is actually an emotional check-in. Her daily leadership meeting isn't just about logistics. It's about asking, what's the emotional landscape of the school today? And she makes a point to make everyone feel seen.
So now, let's step inside the classroom of Nama, one of the teachers in this school. You can see how the principal's philosophy doesn't just stop at the office door. It cascades down. Nama has completely internalized this culture of support, and her teaching motto is all about reframing what it means to make a mistake.
And look at her techniques. They are brilliant, practical examples of psycho-pedagogy in action. The daily emotional check-in, that's simultaneity, weaving feelings into literature. Writing the lesson plan on the board to reduce anxiety, that's systemic support. And her whole approach to mistakes and successes, that is teaching kids a powerful form of recognition for their own learning process. It's all connected.
Okay, this all sounds really good in theory, but here's the bottom line. Does it actually work? What happens when a school really commits to seeing the water it swims in? Well, the results are pretty profound, and they create this powerful ripple effect.
The research from schools that have adopted this model is crystal clear. When teachers feel seen and supported, guess what? They become more motivated, more confident. They start collaborating more effectively. Their relationships with their students improve, and the final undeniable result? Student achievement goes up. A lot. By focusing on the emotional health of the adults, the academic performance of the kids thrives.
So when you boil it all down, psychopedagogy isn't some soft skill or an extra thing to do. It's the very engine of an effective school, which leaves us with a really powerful question to think about. What would change if we stopped thinking of schools as factories that just dispense information and started seeing them for what they truly are? Complex human ecosystems where everyone, from the principal to the student, needs support in order to grow.